Hello, everyone. Good evening. Thank you so much for coming. I'm Kara Carmack, the Assistant Director of Exhibitions and Public Programs at the New York Studio School, and I'm honored to welcome you to our Fall 2024 Evening Lecture Series. We're thrilled to welcome artist Denzil Forrester and curator Sohrab Mohebbi in conversation this evening. This season is particularly special as the New York Studio School is celebrating our 60th anniversary this year. It was on September 23rd, 1964, that Mercedes Matter and an intrepid group of dedicated artists founded the school in a loft on Broadway and relocated to our current building in 1967. A reminder to those in person on 8th Street to please silence all cell phones during tonight's event. We'll reserve time at the end for a Q&A with the audience. For those in the room, please raise your hand and I'll bring a microphone to you so our online audience can hear your question. For our Zoom audience, you can submit your questions by clicking on the Q&A button at the bottom of your screen. Following the lecture, please join me and our guests downstairs in the clay room for light refreshments to continue the conversation. The New York Studio School is grateful to the following funders for their support of the 2024-25 Evening Lecture Series: the National Endowment for the Arts, the New York State Council on the Arts, the New York City Department of Cultural Affairs in partnership with the City Council, the Robert Lehman Foundation, the Samuel H. Kress Foundation, and many generous individual contributors. Now I'm delighted to introduce our guest this evening. Born in Grenada in 1956, Denzil Forrester moved to London in 1967 and now lives and works in Cornwall, the UK. Forrester received a BA in Fine Art from the Central School of Art in London in 1979 and an MA in Fine Art from the Royal College of Art in London in 1983. He was awarded the decoration of the Member of the Most Excellent Order of the British Empire in December 2020. He's received the Morley Fellowship from Morley College in London, a Harkness Fellowship in New York, and a scholarship by the British School at Rome. Major solo exhibitions of Forrester's work have been held at the Kemper Museum of Contemporary Art in Kansas City, Missouri, and the ICA in Miami, Florida, just last year in 2023. He's exhibited at the National Portrait Gallery in London, the MCA in Chicago, Tate Britain, and the Hayward Gallery, both in London. His work is included in the collections of the ICA Miami, Florida, the Met Museum of Art here in New York, the Tate in the UK, and the Arts Council Collection in the UK, and the Government Art Collection in the UK as well, and the Long Museum in Shanghai, amongst many others. A solo two-venue exhibition of Forrester's work is currently on view in New York through December 18 as Stephen Friedman and Andrew Krebs. The show, entitled Two Islands, One World, was curated by Sheena Wagstaff, Chair Emerita at the Met Museum of Art and former Chief Curator at the Tate Modern. Sohrab Mohebbi was appointed Director of SculptureCenter in 2022. He also served as the SculptureCenter's Curator-at-Large and as curator. Before joining the SculptureCenter in 2018, he was Associate Curator at REDCAT in Los Angeles and Curatorial Fellow at the Queens Museum. He is an advisor at the Rijksakademie in Amsterdam and has organized exhibitions and programs for the Walker Art Center in Minneapolis, High Desert Test Sites in Joshua Tree, SALT in Istanbul, and the Center for Historical Reenactments in Johannesburg, South Africa. He received an MA from the Center for Curatorial Studies at Bard College and a BFA in photography from Tehran Art University. Mohebbi has organized solo exhibitions by Fiona Connor, Tishan Hsu, Hassan Khan, John Knight, and Falke Pisano, among others. His group exhibitions include Searching the Sky for Rain, It is Obvious from the Map, and Hotel Theory, which received the Emily Hall Tremaine Exhibition Award in 2013. In 2012, he was the recipient of a grant from the Creative Capital Warhol Foundation Arts Program for his blog, Presence Documents. Now please join me in offering a very warm welcome to our guest this evening.
Okay. All right.
Well, thank you.
Yeah. So we'll start with a short film of a poet called Benjamin Zephaniah, who came to visit me in the 90s. Can you hear me better now? Oh, it's better. Okay, so we'll start with a short film by Benjamin Zephaniah, who was employed by the BBC, looking at 5 artists in the UK for a £500 prize, and I was one of the artists. But they didn't buy my work, which was quite good, because I still have it. But he was an interesting poet, born in Birmingham, and he died early this year. He's only 60, so I think it'd be interesting to show him visiting me in my studio. The studio it's called Islington Arts Factory in London, Camden Road, and me and my partner was based there for over 25 years, and it was founded by Philippa, my partner's parents, and it was a godsend to us after art school. You know, after art school, 7 years, we're both at art school for 7 years, and you end up making all this painting. Well, I had lots of big paintings, and I had to have somewhere to store the bloody things. And it was great having this space. It was owned by the City of London, and you pay a PG rent, and we did classes, we had a gallery and studio there. We did lots of work, basically, endless work to keep it going. But we were kicked out in 2006. Probably one of the best things that happened to us. We were there too long. Yeah. So the film is in that building, and it's a lovely building. Okay.
Should we head?
Yeah.
Let's kick it.
Play?
Play.
It was really say something to me. They're going to take a lot of beating. But there is one other artist who I've heard paint subjects familiar to me. He's Denzil Forrester. I'm told that he went through the art school system.
Now, Denzil, tell me something now. Look, are you an art expert? I heard that you studied and got qualifications. Tell me.
Yeah, I went to Central School of Art and did the Royal College for 3 years. And I went to Rome for 3 years. Rome Fellowship. Yeah.
In Rome, in Italy?
In Italy, yeah. Yeah, that was amazing. That was beautiful. This one is a blues session. Jashaka at the control.
Jashaka is a sound system, yeah?
He is a sound system. He also makes records as well. But he's amazing look on the sound system. He dance all night and play music and sing as well. Yeah. No, he's a really amazing performer. Lots of energy. It took me quite a while to get the whole thing together. I had to do lots and lots of studies, drawings for it, and then put the whole thing together in the studio. So I'll go drawing at night, and during the day I'll paint at home.
I must admit, one of the reasons why I like this is because it's a blues dance. It's a blues, and it's like, people think of reggae, and they hear reggae in clubs and everything, but you have to experience it in a blues dance. And I mean, to some people it looks strange. Why is everybody standing around the person who's playing the record, you know? Yeah. And there's something about it which is just, I try to capture in poetry all the time. Never quite get there.
Oh, yeah. This one is a smaller, more detailed study, similar to the big one. And you could see this one, there's bars going across, because I was behind the bar at the time, drawing. The drinks bar, that is, because it's a nice surface, because I've got a full A1 paper, because this place is a jam-packed. You hardly can stand, you know, and sweating and sand and music and noise.
I mean, I know what the atmosphere is like. Everybody's out kind of being cool and having a good time. What do they think when they see you sitting behind the bar painting?
In the beginning, it was quite difficult for them to accept me, and I was getting all sorts of funny looks. But after a couple of months, I was accepted, you know, by the group and everything, and people wanted me to go home and draw them and the family, you know. People would come up to me and do huge poses and say, oh, draw me. So after that, I was like part of the crowd myself. Yeah.
Now, I can really identify with this, simply because it looks like me. This don't look like me at all.
Yeah,
okay.
Yeah, it's another big,
God, it was very big.
brighter one. This one, yeah, this one was...
I mean, you don't have this sitting in your front room, do you?
Oh, why not? No, it was stored away in the back.
And I noticed this is a lot brighter.
Yeah, this one I did again in Italy. This is the first painting I did when I went to Italy. And I thought, what I'll try to do, the first thing I do when I get there, to do a spontaneous painting of my reaction towards that environment. And of course, everything, the light is much more intense, and there's lots of beautiful colors, oranges and browns and stuff.
So you think life in Britain is a lot duller?
No, I don't think life in Britain, the light is,
The light is not the
sun
light.
is, the sun is a bit duller.
It's getting warmer. Have you heard? It's getting warmer.
Well, yeah, it's getting much warmer. But now, it's, again, you see, it's a lot, the people tend to be, seems warmer because the atmosphere,
The atmosphere
is
is
much
warmer.
warmer, so people tend to be a little bit warmer.
And that's
as
where
well.
all the colour comes from.
Yeah, yeah.
This one won a prize for you.
Yeah, I won a prize in 1987 for Best Painting at the Royal Academy summer show.
And get you loads of money.
Well, a bit, yeah.
Well, £500. Well, I got £500 to spend, and I
Oh,
think
did
I
you?
can afford this. I must admit, I do like it.
Ah, yeah.
How much is it? £499. 9 pence.
Should make it 500.
Okay. Yeah, so Denzil, watching this film gives us a little bit of context, but one thing maybe we can start with is that how did it all start for you? What draw you to painting?
It's difficult, really. It's just being at school, coming from Grenada. I suppose you're left alone to just get on with stuff. I was in a dunce section of the school. I didn't realize till after a year I was in the dunce section, basically. You couldn't get out of the dunce section for the next 2 or 3 years. So first year, and after a year, and there's lots of people like me from the West Indies, and then so in the 4th year, you had a chance to leave. So what, 14, 15, and you could go to FE colleges, so further education. I think my generation is probably the first generation that went to them. So I was very lucky. So I didn't have any, the best I had was an O-level in art, and all the rest were not very good. And I went to FE colleges, and I decided to throw myself at all the arts. Photography, contemporary dance, painting, you name it. And a few academic studies, but I wasn't really interested in the academic studies. And then I met my partner, Philippa, in the art room. And I enjoyed art, I really enjoyed art then. And so I knew probably, not that I wanted to do it, but there was something about it that drawing me to it. And then she introduced me to her dad's workshop in a place called Dalston in Stoke Newington, Hackney. So this place, so it was based on the Bauhaus. It's like a massive art room, about 4 or 5 times this space, but very low ceilings. And I went there because before I used to help my mom make bags in the evening. So I leave school, and for 4 years I go home and make bags with my mom. It's like a cottage industry. We make bags for money. And so then I stopped doing that to go to Culverstone. And then my partner, Philippa, got into art school after about a year. And then I realized, I have to get into art school. So her dad helped me. So I suppose I'm meeting Philippa, and as soon as I got into art school, I realized I'm going to stay in art school, because I love it, and that's what I wanted. Well, that's what I wanted to do. But you don't actually know, but you feel that's what you want to do because you're only 17. You're still quite young, 17, 18. So I think it started about then.
Is it around that time that you also start going to the clubs, or this is a little later?
No, it's a little less. I did foundation,
Yeah.
and a lot of my tutors were abstract. Well, they were taught figuratively because they're the 50s, early 60s. Then the American abstract expressionist artists came over, and they were all gobsmacked by it. So they all went over to painting drip, stripe, whatever. And because I was always figurative, I always did figurative stuff. I mean, I loved the cubists. I love analytical cubism and stuff like that. So I was always messing up my figures, destroying them, breaking them up, twisting and turning them, flattening it, and using all shapes and stuff. So I messed about a lot on foundations, which is what foundations is for, because they don't want you to make your mind up. They just want you to be free and just do all the different disciplines, which I did and enjoyed it. And then I was doing all that, but I knew I wanted to paint. I knew I wanted to do And as soon as I got on the degree painting course, because back in the day you had to do your foundation, which you have to do everything, and then you'll get you might be lucky if you get on a degree course. Yeah. So I got on the degree course, and in those days we traveled a lot to Europe, so you were introduced to all the Impressionists, Cézanne, Matisse, Picasso, and it was lovely. You go to France and then you come back doing a Monet, a Cézanne, for about a week, and so it was good training, good discipline, to get it out of your system. So in the second year, I realized I must focus. I must find something that means something to me. I can't be doing all this and that. So this is the first painting I think I did of a nightclub I went to in Stoke-Newington, Hackney. I went there with a small sketchbook, an A4 sketchbook, and I did some drawings, and I really enjoyed it. And I realized that's what I have to do. I found my subject matter, and that's what I have to do. That's what I focus on. And then I decided I'll have to try and work bigger, so I'll take A1 paper, because in those days the dance were very energetic, because they were influenced by the martial art, Bruce Lee, and they will integrate lots of different movements, not only
Into the dance.
Into the dance, yeah.
Wow.
I mean, they were converted theatre, because a lot of old theatres were being converted into dance halls. Like mid-70s, there were a lot of big open spaces in London. You can go to. People didn't need to go to outside. It's actually in like on your street, literally. And so I took large papers, made these quick drawings. So the drawings were then to the length of a record, 4 or 5 minutes. In those days, nightclubs were very, very dark, so you couldn't see what you were doing. People were smoking weed, everything, So and I loved it. I really enjoyed it, and I knew there was something happening in the drawings. So that one was then probably 78, 79,
Right.
in my last 2 years at Central, and then after Central, I got into the Royal College.
Royal College, right.
Yeah. And you had to have a year off at the time if you were accepted by the Royal College. A year off.
So you have to take like a gap year.
A gap year.
Right.
Which was great for me because I realized I'll consolidate myself, make a lot of drawings. So I had a year just to go to nightclubs, down my street, stuck to Hackney, and make drawings. So when I go to the Royal College, I knew exactly what I wanted to do for the next 3 years.
Right.
Yeah. So I started drawing the DJ called Jashaka. So that's about 1981. Started the Royal College. This painting is about just over a meter, 4 or 5 feet by.
This is the one that he didn't buy.
That's the one that Benjamin Zephyr and I looked at.
Right.
And didn't buy it. So Peter Doig has bought this one in 2016.
Oh, wow.
So the BBC could have bought that in 91, 92 for £500. And in 2016, Peter Doig bought that one for himself. So Peter Doig owns this painting now.
Peter and you went to school together.
He was a year behind me. I never knew him, and he never knew me. I think he was at Chelsea.
Oh, so you didn't know each other at the time?
No,
Oh,
we never knew each other. That was the interesting thing about it.
Oh,
He
okay.
saw my MA, my Royal College MA show,
Oh, wow.
and really liked it. And then saw it throughout the years, like every 5 or 6 years.
Oh, got it.
But I never knew him, and he never knew me. He just knew of my work.
The work, right?
Yeah.
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 And who was the Shaka?
Shaka was a brilliant DJ, probably started about when he was about 18, 19, and only was interested in heavy reggae dub music. So so when I say that, they'll make their own speakers, they'll build their own speakers, because they wanted a certain sound, 6, 7 feet high, and then the system, the amplifiers, would all be mono system, not stereo, because they wanted that back and forth boom boom sound. They didn't want the most circular stereo, soft melodic sound. They wanted that more rugged, rough sound, which is suits early dub music much better.
He's very, he does appear in a number of your paintings, Shaka, because that was where he played in a club that you, I think in your piece actually, in this book, you talk about how during the early hours they play disco and then they get into the deep dub stuff later, and you would spend time there, do the warm-up.
That's it, yes. So this club was split into two. It's a Victorian palace, so it's a Victorian lovely building, big. So there'll be the rooms are slightly bigger than this room. So the top floor would be the disco part, so R&B, American music. And that will start about 10. So I'll be like on the stage bit, start about 10, and then people gradually start coming in, and I'll warm up. So there'll be a DJ playing over there, I'm here, and then the dance hall. And it's beautiful because it's just like a slow, gentle build up to the night, starting about 10. And then Shaka, so I'm there with the disco people, just warming up, drawing on an A1, like a table like this. And then come 1 o'clock, Shaka comes with his big truck outside, bring all the speakers in, down in the basement, Takes about an hour to set up. And I'll go downstairs and I'll be behind the bar, the drinks bar, like I said in that previous painting, because it'll be so crowded, it'll be so full of people, there'll be no way to do anything on the air. And so I was quite lucky to be that they allowed me to draw at the drinks bar. And I was about 6-7 feet away from Shaka, so I could see the DJ and the whole of the dance hall. And so it was visually, for someone who was drawing, that was great, because you could get the guy, the main dude, and all the dance hall people.
Right.
So I'll be there till about 5 o'clock. I'll leave about 5, and they'll be still going. Yeah. I'll be off. Yeah.
One thing, I mean, there are a few things that I feel is interesting about your method. One is that you mentioned that you made drawings that were length of a tune, of a song.
Yeah.
And you're making so many of them each evening. But it's a fascinating process because the duration of a song is not, let's say, a set scene or anything. There is movement, there are people dancing, there is also not much light there. So you're almost capturing a duration into one scene. So the temporality of that drawing is one thing that I find really important when thinking about the work, because it's not just one scene, it's actually an expanse of time that you're thinking. And the other, one other thing relatedly that I'd like to ask you about is you're almost drawing in total darkness. And I want to maybe if you would share, how does that feel? Because we really associate that, act of painting or drawing with seeing. And a lot of this is not necessarily what you're, let's say, you don't have the perfect condition, and then you're creating this condition. So maybe you can, I have a couple of more related questions, but maybe we can start from there.
Yeah. Yeah, so the idea of these drawings, which I didn't know at the time, which probably I find them quite exciting, like, because it was very dark, and you basically, so I had all my tools. So I mainly had compressed charcoal, which is charcoal, but it has wax in it. So once you make a mark, you're stuck with it.
Right.
So I'd and lots of pastels. And usually in those days, they'll play the A side of a record, which is the main side, which is the vocal side. And then if it's an interesting record, the B side, the vocals, the instrumental side, will be much even better, and they can mess about with it. So they can distort it. And then someone from the audience, a rapper, in those days they called them toaster, will come.
Toaster.
Yeah, toaster. They call the Jamaicans call them toasters. You'll have a toaster, will rap on the B side, and then the DJ Shaka will be doing lots of funny stuff. Might turn the volume up, might turn all the trebles and the middle range out, and then you'll just have pure bass thump in the room, boom, 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 and everything will be shaking. You know, but the B side, usually people get very excited. More about the B side as opposed to the A side. And what you have to do is believe and feel you are there with them as one.
Because you're not on the dance floor.
You're
outside the dance floor.
Yeah, but you're on the dance floor on the paper.
Right.
You're on the dance floor on the paper, and it's only one take. So like I was saying, I was doing about 50 drawings, because they don't go crazy all the time. But when they do go crazy, you have to go crazy with them in that 3 or 4 minutes. And so you're not thinking, you're just acting upon your feelings, your emotions. You're on that paper doing what they're doing. You know, and if it happens, it happens. If it doesn't happen, you don't stop. You don't stop. You continue drawing for that duration. Mainly it's about 3 minutes. You know, and when they stop, you stop. You know? And that's the thing about it, because once you stop, you're out of it. You start thinking. You start using the intellect. You do not want to do that, because you break the thing about you on the paper. So you'll be doing 2 hands. You'll be doing 1 hand, 2. You know, because you're not seeing what you're doing either. So you do it, take it off the table, chuck it into the table, and you're on ready for the next one. To go. Yeah.
And usually would you go to your studio the next day, look at the drawings, and that would lead to, I want to develop this into a painting. How would that next step for you look like?
Yeah, the next day usually is Saturday. Friday is the best night, usually is the best night. And my home is not far, it's only about 10, 15 minutes from this place, so I usually walk home. And I'll get up about 11, 12, whatever. I even go down Dalston to the record shops, because I used to have record shops.
So you have records, play records in the studio where you...
Yeah, sometimes I get excited by a record I hear, and I might want to go and buy it. And then put it on, and then I'll start looking at the drawings. And I'll choose about, out of 50, probably 6 or 7 drawings from that night to take it to college and work on to make a big paintings. And the paintings in those days, like this one of Shaka, so that actually is the first painting I did at the Royal College. And that's about 9 feet, 3 meters by 2.5. And in fact, in those days, I actually kept it, I mean, it's much darker than that. The atmosphere is much, much darker. But I paint much brighter now. So I was trying to make it as dark as possible, the palette, you know, using it. But yeah, so that's... So I've mixed a bit of upstairs. You see that table with 2 heads? That's from the disco part upstairs. So sometime I might integrate, just to break the composition up, I might introduce something from upstairs into the dub scene downstairs.
Right.
And you could see there's the DJ on the mic. Yeah, and so forth.
And how would you think about color? Because I feel like the color of your paintings is a really, I mean, obviously it's an important aspect of the painting, but I'm curious how you decide on the palette, especially in these few paintings that we looked at, and I feel like this one maybe interesting to think about that as well, because is it trying to capture that evening, or?
No, I'll use a limited palette. I don't go for, because there wouldn't be much color there because it's so dark.
Right.
So, I mean, the thing is in those days, 80% of the clubs were Rastafarian. The headgear, was beautiful, big, and fun, and they dress up, basically. So they dress up. So that woman with the headgear, I love the heads were the thing I used to love, and they helped me to actually make the composition heads are very important, and they wear all this beautiful, well, more colorful than I have made it, but I think, so I suppose at the time as well, in London, the 80s, the atmosphere, it's to do with atmosphere as well, because I might see lots of colors in the nightclub, but at that time there was lots of riots, street violence, street stuff. So I would use a darker palette, I think, not so much because of what's happening in my environment.
Right.
Yeah. So, but at the same time, I always wanted to get some sense of being in a dark space, a night atmosphere, but without too much color.
Did you feel these spaces that you are depicting are somehow spaces of resistance in certain way, or spaces that had a certain place in culture at that moment that showed a direction, a movement that you felt you wanted to contribute in its, let's say, depiction or representation? Because one term that keeps coming to my mind thinking about your work is as something we can call a subterranean impulse, and a way to think about how you're capturing something that is trying, or it's in resistance to the dominant culture.
Yeah. Well, I think those people were similar to me, I suppose.
Yeah.
They realized they had a huge culture, and for 300-400 years they were subjugated, slaves, whatever. And now they could go to those nightclubs, dress up, feel royal, and they have their heavy dub music, transcendental, taking them back to joy and hypnotic movement. So I mean, that was probably what I felt at this nightclubs, which you probably couldn't go on the street and do that.
Right.
But in this intimate space, you could do that.
There's another thing, this is actually a good painting that would speak to this question, is that you mentioned when you're going to Royal College, there was a form of dominance of abstraction as an approach to art making, while you're really thinking about how to introduce the figure. But a lot of, I would say, when you look at your paintings, this is maybe one example of how you're really working into the abstract language in terms of how you forms and colors, and they're kind of also the way that you put paint on a canvas and all, even though the figures are always kind of coming through, and it seems like you're trying in your work, you're working with these two modalities.
Yeah. Well, there was a nice thing about having abstract tutors, because they like color and shape.
Right.
So they'll talk about, have you seen this exhibition? Have you seen that exhibition? Which has been probably most likely abstract.
Right.
And you'll go to it. You probably didn't like it much, but you probably look at it, the color and shape. But I mean, this one, for instance, this is a very quick painting.
Yeah.
It's done, this is one of the painting I've done like if I was in a nightclub. So it's done in a gesture style, very quick movement action. So everything is like speed, you know, you're moving from one thing to the other. And when you do that, you get lots of abstract quality because there is lots of big empty spaces. Even, I mean, 80% of it is heads, but the heads are quite, they don't have to be like, the heads are moving.
Moving,
you know, they're
yeah.
moving heads. You know, how do you paint and draw a moving head? You know, and they all move in unison together as one. You know, and so when you go to these spaces and you draw in those spaces, that comes into you physically. So it becomes part of your body.
Yeah.
But not only because you're not. It's not just the drawing. You get that rhythm in your body. So when you come to do the painting, you try to get that into your physical self. Yeah. So that one is a good one because it shows the gesture, what it'll be. It's because I sometimes make it a bit too static, too still. Yeah, but that one
It's really the movement here.
Yeah, yeah.
But I mean, I think the movement really comes through in this work.
Yeah,
as well.
well, that's the study for this painting. The one before was the study because I had lots of fun doing this painting because I wanted to get, because of what dub is, it's a noise that not scream, but is continuously pumping out this beat, which intoxicates your body, and eventually you just give up to it and you just rock with it. And so that's what I wanted, because you're not only drawing shapes, you're drawing music, the sound, you know, the atmosphere at the time. Yeah.
Do you want to speak a little bit about scale? Because your paintings are big. And you start with these drawings that are A4 or A1, you mentioned? Sorry.
A1.
A1, and then you work really in large scale. Some of the paintings have several, and you know, like this is a larger painting. So I'm curious if you, I mean, this is also a very important painting that maybe we can talk about as well, but to think about how you're imagining scale and what is your decision making around that, I think that's an important part of the work.
Yeah, I didn't have to think about it much. I mean, when I started painting, I started carrying an A4, 4x3, it's a meter, hardboard, because originally I started painting on hardboard, which was cheap, whereas canvas was too expensive. And you could just get it beneath your arm. So when I started going to those nightclubs, of course I was at art school then, and you get materials, canvas, paint, and I knew I wanted to make them feel life-size, as if you are there with them in the nightclub. Okay. So when you look at it, you don't feel you are someone looking at the painting from over there, but you feel
you're
as
part of it.
You're part of the whole. So that size. But I like big paintings anyway. So you have to like it because it's important when you're working. You know, you make a mark. You know, so it will go with the size you want. So it's a physical size. It's your shape. You know, you know your size. But no, I never liked working small. So
you did not.
Yeah, I still work big. So yeah. So,
Can you speak to this painting? I mean, there is one rather, let's say, cursory observation. I would say is that. One thing you have done in some of the work is that you spend a lot of time with the subjects of the painting. Being, let's say, Jashaka, you're there, you go there night after night, you're in the space, you are with them, even though you might not be interacting with them at that time because they're doing their own thing. And if we take that to a painting like this, which is a funeral of Winston Rose, who is someone that was your neighbor and was killed by the police. Another aspect that is really important is that you decide that you're going to go to the courtroom, you record, be there in the space when these deliberations are happening. And this sort of like establishing a certain form of let's say, indexical relationship with what you're trying to make, is it seems that it's an important part of the work, even though these are very different scenes.
Yeah.
But this kind of aspect brings it together. Maybe you want to speak to that if you...
Yeah, this painting ended up being, I suppose, different from the others, even though it's still a nightclub painting, because that's how I studied it originally. So it was my last painting in the first year of the Royal College, and I was on just Jashaka paintings. So this is to do with the Jashaka painting as well, the warrior system, Jashaka over the speaker there. And then Jashaka was meant to be in the middle where the coffin is. So in 1981, Winston Rose, a friend of mine, who lived in the same house for about 7, 8 years, then his parents moved and I didn't hear anything much about him for about a couple of years. And then when I started this before I started this painting, I was looking at the local news, 6 o'clock news. He was killed in police custody. So I went to see his family and found out about, is that really true? And yes, it was. And so at the time, I had to do a thesis for my MA. And you had a free choice. You could write about anything. You didn't just have to write about art history. So I decided I'll write about Winston Rose. So I thought I didn't want to make anything up. So I went to the inquest of his death at a magistrate court somewhere in London. And I took my ghetto blaster, the tape recorder, and I was there for about 5 days taping the proceedings. So I taped the proceedings, wrote the thesis, and it was so, well, when you go to those things and you realize how people's death is horrible, where they are killed and whatever, the detail and nastiness about it all. So in the middle of this painting, I was so pissed off with it. So I thought, I'm going to get rid of Jashaka and stick a coffin in the middle and stick Winston. So I thought, why should I use for Winston Rose? Because sometimes you're in a nightclub drawing and there'll be people literally falling asleep on the floor, you know. And I sometimes just accidentally draw one. So the figure in the coffin is a sleeping figure in the nightclub that I stick in the coffin. Then his wife above, because he had 2 kids and a wife. Basically, he had mental illness. He's an electrician. His day job was an electrician, and used to box in the evening and had a brain hemorrhage. And in those days, if you get ill, like mental delusions and stuff, they'd chuck you in a small container room with a straitjacket, and hopefully if you come through next day, they'd let you out. So anyway, that happened a lot, and his wife phoned for psychiatric help, and then basically 6 policemen came to collect him, and they didn't know his illness. And they killed him in his back garden. He tried to escape, went to his back garden, they ran after him. They killed him in the back garden, and then dumped him in a van and take him to the station. So anyway, the top part of the painting celebrate Winston getting away from the harshness of contemporary life. So he went to hide in a British shed. You know, I don't know what a British shed looks like, but they're classic. They're brilliant. So I turned the British shed into an African hut. And then his boat sailing away, take him to better days. And then sort of warrior spears and Jashaka warrior things. So the whole top of the painting is all made up to take Winston away to a better place, hopefully. Yeah.
There are a few kind of related works to this, which will, maybe I can show that painting first, but this is also really...
So this is the disco bit at the top. I'm telling you about more R&B music.
Yeah.
So that's the record play. I'm sort of coming across there. So I'm sitting there for about 2 hours. I really enjoy. I must have sat there for about 5 years for 2 hours before I went downstairs to the heavy dub. Yeah, so I've done quite a lot of paintings about that part.
What's happening here now?
Well, people are just chilling out, waiting for Shaka to come, so they're just chilling out, dancing. Like sometime where that guy is standing with the There might be someone falling asleep there sometime. But that's the music room. That's where they play the records.
But this club doesn't exist anymore.
Oh, no, it's flats.
No.
It's posh flats now.
It's posh flats.
All those lovely places, they just take them.
And a lot of these were informal clubs, right?
Well, it was a big established club in the 50s because I think the Craig twins, two British gangsters, I think they used to go to that club in the 50s. It's only since, the 90s, gentrification.
This is in Hackney?
Hackney, yeah. Well, people sell places, think lots of money, and other rich people buy it, and then they turn it into posh flats. And then, it's just a money-making business, isn't it? It's a circle. The government supports it, everyone supports it, and the people are living there, sell it up, they think they're making a quick buck, and then move further out. Same thing happened to New York, Brooklyn, yeah. So I went back to Winston Rose again. So this is 82. 82, after doing the burial, I couldn't stop doing stuff about Winston Rose. Anyway, so this, the figures, there's two policemen in it. My brother is about 5-6 years younger than me. He did a little drawing, an A4 paper, of a Rastafarian guy with two British cops on either side, with it's night scene with a lamp, a street lamp, with flats in the back. And I saw this drawing. It's just biro. It's just fairly simple, but it does say about what was happening in the 80s very clearly. So I saw this biro drawing at A4, and I thought, that's Winston Rose. So I took this little A4 drawing.
Of your brothers?
Of my brothers, line drawing with a biro, blue biro. And I made this painting. It's a more friendly one. The police are carried a reef and stuff like that. That one will be showing at Gagosian. Peter Doig bought this painting. So Peter is showing this one in Gagosian in the first. It starts on the first. Yeah, but that one, it has a lot of elements that I've used in other paintings, probably you'll be seeing.
Yeah.
With a big speaker, with a pink speaker, and I've almost tried to use a photograph of Winston Rose with the red stuff going up in the middle, and his wife in front of it. Yeah. And I've taken off his face this time. I didn't use any. I tried to keep it a bit calmer, a bit sort of more subdued, but at the same time, a bit deeper. Yeah.
Are there any other paintings later that have this kind of element of like a certain homage or memorial that you have been investigating here? Is there any other kind of similar body of work that you can think about? Because I know this is a subject that you have you've revisited a few times.
Yeah, well, when I was doing that painting, I think a year or two before when I was at Central, I went to Spain, and there's El Greco, the burial of some oligarch, is a rich dude. And they had this, it's amazing painting. You go to this chapel, but this size but higher ceiling, and it's an incredible painting. So yeah, some of the dark paintings of the Goya and El Greco, I think, they're sort of, when you see them and when you're dealing with such a situation like someone being killed that those paintings does help to give you more strength and energy to cope with the composition, the colors, and things like that.
Yeah, and this would be another.
So that's the three wicked men: the businessman, the politician, them all, and the policeman. Three wicked men. There's a record about it as well, a dub record about it. Mm-hmm. So this record was done in the second year at the Royal College. It's about 12 feet, 15 feet. Anyway, so if you imagine a biro drawing, A4 paper, just line of the three guys with the street lamp, and that was it. So when I saw the drawing, like I said, I thought, oh, Winston Rose, because I did the burial, I did the inquest in his death, wrote the thesis and all that type of stuff. So anyway, so I thought, I'll have to do another painting of Winston Rose. So this painting was done in '82 at the Royal College. At the Royal College in the summer, when everyone is gone, there's no tutors. If you want, you've got the studios to yourself. And the Royal College then was the back of the V&A. So you had these massive studios, high ceilings. And it was good, because this painting, I don't think I could have done it because there's usually 5 students, 5 of my colleagues in the room. It's a big room. I'm not sure I could have done it with too much people around me. So I had the summer with the studio to myself in '82. I had about 6 weeks to get on with it and do it. But it started quite bright, this painting. Bright blues. I mean, French ultramarine, cobalt. And then I had to keep splashing blacks into the blues and to get it deep, deep. Then, at the time, I did a crocodile painting before that.
Show that.
You could see the crocodile textures, you know, the little circles. They helped me a lot because I hate boring surface. You look at them, there's nothing there, and you think, oh, they haven't actually taken you across. They haven't, you know, like you read in the painting, and sometimes you have to be, you know, take the viewer from one bit to the other. And it helped me to use the mosaic ball in a nightclub as well. You know, when you have the mosaic ball in a dark room, it's splashing the lights all over. I'm similar, because I grew up in the West Indies. I sometimes used to have to go to the forest at night. And there is no electric light. And, you know, 6, 7 o'clock, pitch dark. And then you have moonlight.
Moon is the only disco.
Yes, you know, the forest with light breaking through. And it's bloody frightening. You hear a crack in the tree, a crack in the bush. You think, flipping hell. And but it's interesting. Nightclubs try to give that feeling as well sometimes, which is, I mean, that as you're doing the painting, you start to remember that. And then there's a Welsh dragon. I used to go to Notting Hill Carnival, which was great. And so the Welsh dragon is that red bit at the other end. It's a beautiful flag, the Welsh dragon. So I've just slipped the Welsh dragon in there and my ghetto blaster. Everyone used to go around with a ghetto blaster, mashing the place up in the 80s. Noise everywhere, big speakers. Yeah. So yeah, that's the 3 Wicked Men. Yeah.
Well, we didn't really get to newer paintings, but how much time we have? Is there any? Because I want to show, first of all, this painting. So this is a crocodile that, Denzil, you were referring to. Yes. And it's interesting because at some point, Denzil decided that, I believe, I'm paraphrasing, that you were like, well, maybe sometimes I go to a nightclub and then you decide to check out the zoo for a change.
It's so good to have opposites, you know, opposites of things, because I was doing all this nightclub painting, and then me and my friend had a friend at art school. We were together at art school for 6 years. So we decided the Royal College were linked to London Zoo, so you didn't have to pay to go in. So he did the piranhas. So every Friday we'll go and draw. So he drew the piranhas and I drew the crocodiles. But the crocodiles were very, very helpful to me. And so I did this painting of them before the 3 Wicked Men. Because when you look at the 3 Wicked Men, you could see a lot of the textures of the bark of the crocs. I really had fun doing them, drawing them, in fact. Yeah, they're quite still, but lovely shapes. Yeah.
Did you make a bunch of paintings in the zoo, or this is the one that?
Oh no, I just did A1 drawing. I did the painting. So I did the painting, and so I decided on Fridays I'll do the painting at the Royal College. So I'm used to doing. My tutors will come in every day and see me doing all these nightclub paintings, and on Friday they come in and doing a bloody croc. So they'll just walk out. They don't like you to have a slight change. They just want you to stick on the same track. Yeah.
Would you want to take us up through the newer paintings, and then we'll open it up to Q&A?
Yes, we can look at some of the newer one. I feel one thing maybe that brought, one thing that connected Denzil, myself together was that in 2020 I was researching for an exhibition called at Carnegie International in Pittsburgh, and I reached out to Denzil through Sam Thorne, who had organized an exhibition at the Nottingham Contemporary around that time, I would say, of your work. Yeah. And Denzil, being from Grenada, I reached out and asking if he had a painting of Maurice Bishop. And he said, well, little did you know, I just recently had a few. And maybe you want to like talk a little bit about that context, because there's a few paintings that now recently that you've done that go back and revisit some of those moments, either where you were living when you grew up, or Bishop as a character, and I can like find some of those as you were speaking.
Yeah, so we moved to Cornwall, me and my wife Philippa, in I think 2012, but I couldn't move till 2016. And I think as soon as I started making paintings, I decided to go to my local beach, Portang, and made drawings from there. So I started a sea painting. And then it wasn't working.
Amazing painting.
Yeah, it was. So I just did the sea and a few figures on the beach.
Yeah.
And the nice thing I like about it was the horizontal line, where the sky meets the sea.
And there was the police on the beach, right?
Yeah, so I thought, what can I do? So the police wasn't in the painting, it was just the beach painting. And I thought, what the hell can I do to shake this painting up? So I thought, I'm going to get the three wicked men out.
Oh, yeah.
And superimpose them on top of the whole thing. So this is like the fifth or sixth time I've used the three wicked men, but they help the painting a lot because when you're making a painting, you want to get the perspective, things going back, things coming forward, breaking up the spaces, and they really help to give the painting depth, so you could see that figure standing alone by herself, looking at it. That really gives a lot of depth, yeah. And the kid behind the dread hat. I mean, so as soon as I put it on, the whole thing came up, and I started enjoying it because sometimes, I don't like doing a painting where it's all the work and not joy as well. So yeah, so it was fun.
And so this is a good example of dubbing in your painting
That's
as well.
The mixing, yeah. Superimposing, putting another track on another track.
Yeah, exactly. And some of the, so this is also another.
So that's about the second or third painting I did in Cornwall. So remember, I told you, before I started going to nightclubs, when I was at school having a pretty in the dunce, I used to come home from school at 4, and me and my mom and brothers and sisters were making bags till about 10 o'clock at night. So I started making drawings about 2006, 2000, just around the 2000, just drawings of me and the family. Because it's great, a subject matter that things that you know about is always great to draw them. Because you start drawing, and you realize, and this and this bit and that bit. Anyway. So I started this painting, because I did the drawing about 4 or 5 years. So I studied it in 20s when I went to Cornwall. So it's the third painting of me and my mom in the distance making bags, and basically me and my sewing machine and all my brothers and it's all bags, but I make sure I got all the speakers. So it's kind of a nightclub. I use a lot of nightclubs element. The mosaic ball, like a light at the top, with the circles, because I love breaking up the surface, making the surface exciting it, titillating it with little things here and there. Yeah, and this woman, which is my sister, I mean, she looks like a woman, she meant to be a young girl, going back up into the house, because it's a basement, really, and I'm going up into the distance. Yeah. But I had fun doing this one.
And in this one, it seems like you're substituting the DJ booth with the sewing machine.
Yes. Yeah. I mean, that's the exciting thing about me finding nightclub, really. Because I might be painting my family in the basement making bags, but it could be a nightclub as well. You know. But when my mom used to get me all the latest I used to have all the latest Bob Marley records when they just came out. Because once she didn't keep me sweet making bags with her, you know, so I used to listen to all the latest reggae records when they just came out, which was good, because I ended up going to all the nightclubs.
Do you still frequent?
Yeah, I started going. And there's lots of interesting ones in Cornwall. A lot of the paintings in the exhibition at the Falmouth Reggae Fest in the Stephen Friedman Gallery. There's two big, two. One in Andrew Krebs and one in Stephen. There's a place called Falmouth Reggae Fest. It's a Victorian building. It's massive dance hall, much bigger, twice the size of this room. A lot of young people in Cornwall love reggae dub music. And there's 2 days of reggae festival with lots of West Indian cuisine and West Indian, music, Caribbean music. Yeah, so that is about the third one I did.
In Cornwall.
In Cornwall. So the drawing for that was done at a nightclub in London. And then the bottom part I've made up a bit. Because I did an original painting of that in Italy. And it didn't survive very well. I think I still have it, but it's pretty mashed up. It's really badly. The worst thing you can do is take a painting off the stretcher, and it started going funny. So, don't take a painting off the stretcher. Leave it on. Well, it's space, isn't it? You take a painting off and it shrinks. Basically, it starts shrinking. But all sorts of stuff might happen. It might crack.
It's also amazing because you're looking at it from, again, like you were behind Jashaka. Here again, like this is not really a view that most people see from a club, you know?
Yeah.
Because you're behind the DJ booth again.
I mixed this painting. I've introduced a table into it because I love that group in the middle a lot. And I drew them like that in the nightclub where I was sitting because the stage cut them off. So what I did, I didn't want to use the stage, so I introduced a table and a DJ playing records. So once you understand about how to make things work, you have to, if it doesn't, you have to try again. Because I just love those figures in the middle, those men, the women, and about two guys hanging around. Yeah. And then this is really, I made it up. Just for the sake of using that bit in the middle with a DJ, a rapper, toasting on the mic.
I have one more question if there's no urgency.
Yeah, please, and then we'll open it up to Q&A.
Okay. One thing that appears in your paintings are those little, looks like droplets or something. I always thought that it's like a disco ball exploding, or you have them like I'm too short, but there's little shreds, and that appears a lot. And even in a painting on the beach, you have something like that. Can you speak to that?
Yeah, so it's a device from the mosaic ball.
Yeah.
But sometimes it doesn't have to. But that's how I came across it. Because you go to this dance hall, right, and you can see how it distorts the room. So what I do now, I use it to basically break the spaces up, to make the spaces more, and you can introduce a slightly different color into it if you want. But it agitates the surface, give it a bit of music, basically sound, a bit of noise or quiet, or you can make them bigger or smaller, because I haven't introduced it in the foreground. So I've only introduced it in the middle section of the painting. So you can concentrate it in an area and then have the other areas quieter. It's just texture with, like you got in the sound, so you could use it as music, things like that.
Right.
Marks, but it's a shape. It could be like a little leaf,
little leaf.
Yeah, a little leaf, yeah.
Amazing. Well, thank you so much. So we'll open it up for questions. Those in the room, please raise your hand and I'll bring the microphone over to you. And anyone online, feel free to type your questions into the Q&A at the bottom of your screen. Anyone to start?
Hi.
Hello.
You mentioned that you were looking at some master works like El Greco for composition, such as that one burial painting, which I can't remember the name of.
The burial.
Yes. But when you were going to the club and making these drawings, the compositions are just so dynamic. Did you have like masterworks in line, more composition in mind prior to starting of just how you wanted to address the space?
Oh, no. I didn't have anything in mind. I just wanted that space to come into me and me put it on the paper. So when I take it to the studio, it's different. So when I take it to the studio, I have to, because I'll put about 4 or 5 drawings together. So there's one we were talking about, there was one of Shaka where I did a study, a small study where it's more gestural. So I did it very quickly. And there's another one where I use more color, because I love the beginning when there's a big open space. Because this DJ, he has a like almost like an altar where he has A4 bits of paper of Haile Selassie going to war, Haile Selassie doing this, and sometimes that space I leave it blank, and sometimes I might put a little image like a photograph in it. So now, when I go to, that's the beauty about drawing. When I go to the spaces, I've got nothing. I just want to have fun coming to me. And if it happens, it happens. And if it doesn't, it doesn't. But next day, I'll start looking at them, and I'll make, at least, I usually use about 3 or 2. And sometimes I might even choose one head and take it and, you know, because I sometimes did a lot of Shaka by himself with a DJ, you know. But I've got nothing in mind. I just want to make a lot of drawings, because the thing is, drawing feeds the painting. And one of the nice things about drawing, it loosens you. When you go to this, you know, because you actually, is the doing of it. Because if you don't do it, you don't get any feedback. You don't get, you know, from yourself when you're making the painting. So half of it is to do with the doing of it, the making of the drawings, the fun of being there, doing it. Yeah. I mean, but I'm not doing it to make paintings. I just enjoy doing it. But it actually helped me to make paintings. So that's why it's so fun to do drawings. And, you know, drawings, I think, you know, if you go to an art school, I think you should probably spend the first year just drawing. Yeah. It makes you so loose. Yeah.
Thank you.
I used to do a big painting 2 or 3, 2 weeks, probably even quicker. The less I'm painting, it take me 5 or 6 weeks to do a painting now. I mean, obviously it's a different time, but I think I used to draw so much. It quickens me when I come to making the painting. I'm just looser.
Hi.
Hello.
Do you find collages useful in creating the final image, or
well,
drawings?
Yeah. Well, collage. Well, my drawings, what I do now, sometime, well, it's not a collage really, because it's an actual drawing. I mean, by putting shapes and stuff together, but like drawing shapes, I suppose it's a way, it's like a form of collaging, but I'm not cutting out shapes. I'm just imagining the shapes on the paper, or drawing it on the paper, on the canvas, and if it doesn't work, I'll rub it down and try again. But yeah, I don't. Yeah.
Thank you.
Okay. Yes?
We're back here.
Hi. How do you know when your paintings are finished?
Oh, when I've had enough of it. When you think, no, seriously, when you find yourself overdoing things, overworking it, because it happens a lot of the time, you get to a stage and you think, oh, this is fresh, this is good. And you work on it a bit more and you think, oh, I've just killed it. And you got to rub it down. But the drawing helped me a lot to do that as well. Because some of my drawings are like more than the paintings. And that's the nice thing about going to draw in these spaces. You get a fresh, exciting, energetic spontaneity, which is very difficult to get in painting. You know, you can try, which I do, but that's why I love the drawing so much. So to keep that spontaneity, I'm trying. Yeah, but this is why the drawing is so good, I think. But you can tell, you can feel when you overwork a painting, there is something that's lacking. And when you look at the drawing helps you. So once you know the drawing is a bit more than the painting, you know you have lost it a bit. So whether you rub it down with a bit of white spirit or turpentine and start it again, or just leave it. But the drawing does. That's why I love drawings, because you can look at them side by side, the drawing and the painting, and you can know when it hits you. It's the paint. If the drawing is feeling fresher, it excites you more. You know you haven't done your job. Yeah. So yeah.
To build off of that, Denzil, you told me earlier this evening that you're now trying to paint more like you draw. And I wonder if you could expand a little bit more on that, or what that is for you.
Yeah. Well, I realize my drawing is like more mark making. So in drawing languages, there's contour, there's mark making, there's charcoal, mass and bulk, no lines, Sura. Or sometimes people mix it up, marks and mass. So marks and, well, it's not shading, it's just charcoal on its side. But I love marks. So basically, the people who does marks, Van Gogh, marks and it's like a bit of color. And we know we were talking about how you get excited about the drawing, it's the freshness of the drawing. So I spent ages now. I think I spent so it takes me about 6-7 weeks to make a painting, and half of that will be the drawing. So because if the drawing goes a bit, you'll have to get a bit of cloth, a bit of turps, and rub it down. And sometimes even starting with the right color of the drawing, because I used to start a lot with a dark color, blue, black, purple. Yeah, I'm really getting excited about the gestural aspect of the drawing, because once you get the drawing, I mean, you can slap the color on and the drawing is fine, but yeah, it's difficult to explain it, but in the doing of it, because I look at the early paintings, I mean, I really like them, but I used to do something else with the drawing, which I'm trying to do different now. So now I'm really emphasizing the more gestural aspect. So they could be probably a little bit more abstracted sometime. Yeah, they could be a bit more abstracted. But even though they look abstracted, you know there's a head or body in there. Yeah.
Great. Yeah. Any last question? Great.
How's it going? One of the things I found really interesting about your work is kind of being this duality with you being an active participant in the scene as well as an observer.
Oh, yeah.
And so looking at like a scene like a nightclub, I'm curious, like in today's day and age, how would your work translate if you have an iPhone in your pocket?
Oh, I hate photography.
No, but
I wouldn't dare. I would.
Yeah, but I'm speaking more towards like your discernment and detail. Is there certain tools that you used in figuring out what elements you found more compelling to draw? And would an iPhone be a tool that you might consider using now if you started today in the club?
No. That's the important thing about going to a space, and then, like I was saying, the doing of it. You have to do it, not the machine. The machine flattens stuff, 2-dimension. You are the 3-dimension. In the doing of it, something happens to you, yourself, physically, which you wouldn't know till you go back next day and start making painting. It's a totally different experience. Totally, you got to give yourself over to what's there, because I wouldn't make the drawings if the thing I'm not excited about it and stuff like that. But one of the exciting things about these spaces I've drawn in the 70s and 80s, people say that there is no documentation about them as well, which is interesting. The physicality of it, the feeling of it, and all that type of stuff, it has to come from you touching the paper, feeling the paper, and you believing it and feeling it from your soul. But I don't know how the machine, how iPhone and stuff will. Well, I don't know how they'll do that.
Thank you so much, Denzil. And Sohrab, really appreciate this conversation tonight.